Hello, everybody, and welcome into OGP Episode 3. I'm Michael, your host, and before we get started this week, before I introduce my co-host, I have a bit of a story I want to share. On the previous episode, I said that Jordan would not be back for Episode 3. In fact, I had someone else lined up to take his place. I've been around the YouTube space for a while now, especially in gaming circles, and I've become pretty good friends with a lot of the bigger YouTubers, and I wanted to have one. I don't think I can actually say his name legally, but I wanted to have one on the show, so me and Bailey drove up to the Chicago O'Hare Airport to pick him up, and as I got there, I'm waiting for his plane to arrive, a man comes up to me, and he introduced himself as Vinny the Hacksaw Scapelli, and he said to me that he was hired by the Friends of Jordan, and that if I don't bring Jordan back, they're going to find me in bits in every garbage dump in the tri-state area. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome back my good friend and co-host, Jordan. How you doing, Jordan?
Legally speaking, I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I do not claim responsibility for any actions that they make, and I apologize for any mental damages they have done to you.
So with that being said, it's time for the classic segment on the show, Games We've Played. So we're going to talk about, on this segment, games we've played, but also games we haven't played. Because for some reason, we both have games to talk about that we haven't played yet. Do you want to start with those?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to go first. Do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go first real briefly. I just wanted to talk about this. The Mario Kart 8 DLC. I just haven't touched it yet. I do have the expansion pack. It's ready and waiting for me to give it a try, but I just haven't felt the need to play it. And I think I mentioned on our first episode, actually, that I'm having like Mario Kart 8 fatigue.
Yeah, okay.
Which is, and I don't know exactly where that's come from. Maybe it's just that the game's been around for like 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's 9 years, or is it 10 years or is it 9 years?
It's close. You know, it's around there.
Yeah.
But like this is maybe the biggest content update yet for the game. It added 3 whole characters. Mm-hmm. You know, of course, the standard like 8 courses as well. But I just don't give a shit, so I didn't play it.
Fair.
What didn't you play?
So it's less that I haven't had a reason to play it, but more so that the game had just come in and I haven't touched it yet. It's a game called Moon. It was I think it was PS1 RPG.
Yeah, well, anti-RPG,
anti-RPG,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it came out. It was Japan only for the longest time. I think it was like a year or 2 ago. It finally got an English translation over here.
Is that Limited Run that did that initially?
Yes, but it wasn't like one of their numbered releases.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, like so I had ordered the physical copy I think it was earlier this year or like last year, and it finally just came in the mail. And I haven't tried it yet, but I do want to. I think it's a huge inspiration for Undertale as well, if I remember correctly.
Oh, sure.
Because it pretty much it's like a young boy gets sucked into a game like after the hero's already gone through and done his quest. And now it's like, oh hey, let's pick up the pieces basically and help out like both the enemies and all the NPCs that were kind of like left in the quote unquote wake of the hero.
The Moon has always been a really intriguing RPG since I heard about the localization a couple of years ago.
Right.
But I never did get around to picking it up. So perhaps I will also give that a try, and we can talk about it after we both played it even.
Yeah.
All right, on to games that we have played. For starters, on my end, I've picked up Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze a little bit again.
I did see you were playing that a little.
I played 2 levels and then I quit. And it's not because I dislike the game. In fact, I really like it, but it's definitely the most stressful modern platformer. Like, it is pretty demanding, and as far as Nintendo platformers go anyway. I mean, it's nothing like, I don't know, like Super Meat Boy. It really isn't near that, but as far as Nintendo platformers go, it's pretty demanding, and so I've been enjoying it, doing it in small chunks instead, but I hope to complete that before the summers.
It is really good. I played that one back when it came out on the Wii U, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I mean just the environments. It's rare that a 2D platformer can have such expressive environments. I think the other game that I think does it really well is Kirby and the Crystal Shards.
Yeah,
I still think that game's actually keen of it.
I believe that.
But Tropical Freeze is really good too. What's your next one?
I've kind of been spent a lot of the same as I played last time. More Group Coaster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, more Ace Attorney. I've done the first 4 cases of the first game, and I did the side story escapades. So I still need to do the last case, and then I haven't started on the second game yet.
I guess speaking of things that I talked about last time too, briefly, I finished We Love Katamari, and I finished New Super Mario Bros. 2. Brief opinions on both of those real quick. We Love Katamari, still great, probably the best in the series. New Super Mario Bros. 2, probably the best Mario game ever made, easily. So, yeah, both masterpieces, but New Super Mario Bros. 2 wins out.
I believe it.
Not even going to attempt to argue with me.
I'm like, at this point, I'm giving up on it.
No, it was fine.
Yeah. My other one is kind of a strange one, but I've been playing a little bit of Star Fox Zero, actually.
Really? Yeah. Okay, well, I'd like to hear about this.
So, well, the thing is like I did some homebrew stuff with my Wii U, so I can so that way I can install my discs onto a hard drive, so I can
install your legally owned
legally
and obtained
discs. I ripped them all into a .av file. I put on a hard drive that I have.
Right. Yep.
You're doubting me, but it's 100% the case.
I'm just agreeing with you.
So I've been playing a little. I did the first 3 stages, the first 3 levels of it. The story mode or whatever. It's not too bad. I think it's fine.
Oh, one of the rare people who gets the controls.
The controls are weird. Having to always recalibrate them as well as a little iffy. The walker ones are definitely a lot more janky than the actual R-Wing.
Oh yeah.
But as a whole, it's a fine addition to the series, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
I think I own a copy of Star Fox Guard actually,
which
I found for $3.
Yeah, I have Guard as well, but I'm like, let me give Zero a shot, because I hadn't even touched it in years.
This is why you're one of the bravest men I know.
I drop other beloved games, but I'll go back and play Star Fox Zero of all games. The only issue with it, hardware wise, goes for using the hard drive that I have is that it is a little choppy with a little bit of the frame rate, mainly just with
interesting
cutscenes. I think it's because it spins too slowly, I'm assuming.
Oh, gotcha.
So the video and audio with cutscenes specifically kind of comes out of sync.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect my gameplay really.
I think I've seen the same problem people have mentioned before with even PS2 games.
Yeah.
If you're running them off a hard drive. Interesting.
Yeah, because I've tested a few other games using that. I did it with Mario 3D World, and that still runs pretty well. I did it with Smash. It loads a lot slower, but it still works just fine.
Cool.
And then I think I did a little bit of Lego City Undercover, and that also loaded a lot slower, but it still worked out.
Very cool, man. I look forward to actually hearing more about that in the future. I guess the last thing I've really been playing, sort of unsurprisingly, is Pikmin 4.
Right.
That just came out 2 days ago as of recording this.
Ago, yeah.
We'll discuss it briefly because you have not had a chance to play it.
I haven't gotten a chance to pick it up yet.
So I want to talk about the main sticking point people are having with it, and that's the difficulty of the game.
Okay.
And it is much, much easier than I think any previous Pikmin game so far. And granted, I've not finished the game yet.
Right.
It is pretty easy. Still, I've been really enjoying it, and the reason why I'm okay with it is I've had at least 2 mass casualty Pikmin moments, and if you're playing a Pikmin game for the first time and you don't lose a horde of Pikmin all at once, then
you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Something went wrong. So the fact that that's still in there is really cool. I guess my opinion overall on the difficulty is that, it's, as of right now, and again, I think I'm about halfway through. As of right now, it is really easy. I think that the big detriment is that it gives you all these tools you can buy.
Right.
And it's more than you know what to do with, because most of the time you're not going to need any of them because the game is, definitely skews easier. It's entry point for the Pikmin series, I guess, for a lot of people. Which
might be a good thing for the future, for the series, going forward.
I would hope so. It'd be really cool if we got maybe some DLC maps even that are here are the extremely difficult. I mean, Pikmin 2 is the gauntlet. If you've ever tried to 100% that game, something on that level would be really neat. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is the new nighttime mode. I don't know if Nintendo really described how these work in the trailers, but essentially they're a tower defense mode for Pikmin.
Yeah, see, they didn't really go into into detail much about how they work. So
that's the best way I think to describe it, as a tower defense. I think they're pretty fun. Yeah. I've heard of some criticisms that they get a little bit tedious, but I think it's a nice side thing to do in the game, which so far has been very satisfying with the amount of content in it. And that is all I have to say for now. Is that it then?
Yeah, I'd say I don't really have anything else for stuff I've been playing.
We're just getting right through it. So onward to the main topic of the week. Jordan kind of came up with this idea. So if it bombs, it's his fault.
I apologize immensely.
wanted to do a segment where we revisit games that we've previously dropped for whatever reason. I guess the idea is it's a game that we love that the other person dropped.
Right, and like kind of convince them to give it a shot again.
Right. I had Jordan play Super Punch-Out, and he had me play the original Xenoblade Chronicles. So I guess we'll start maybe talking about Xenoblade, actually, because I have a feeling that... Well, I know Jordan could go on about Xenoblade for hours, but I don't have a ton to say about it.
I kind of want to... I want to hear his opinion and kind of... Not really nitpick it, but kind of like... No,
absolutely destroy it on the wheel of logic.
No, like subtly nudge him to be like, maybe go a little bit further. So
yeah, I gave up again, like at the opening area, basically. But here's what I'll say. Okay, start with positives. The story is actually much more intriguing than I remember it being. Mm-hmm. The opening with like the battle that's happening and Dunban and everything, or Dunban, whatever his name is. Yeah. I thought that was all really cool, and I think it sets up a really interesting universe for the games, and I would like to have seen more of the story, honestly.
The cool thing is that you actually can go back to that area too later on in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense. It's like what they said, it was like Colony 6 or whatever, and I imagine that you kind of go to the different colonies. But my big issue is that this gameplay does not fit with my brain whatsoever. I would compare it to like an MMO's style of like combat, but I've never played an MMO. Right. So I can't be for sure, but that's what the feeling that it gives me. I really dislike the input and feedback for my actions. It just feels like Shulk is kind of doing actions on his own, which I think is part of the appeal for some people, but for me, I can't stand it. I mean, I'm not much of an RPG guy, but the RPGs that I love give you that granular, like, menu-based control. Like, I'm going to attack, and I know that at the end of the turn, it executes my attack, and then the enemy attacks, and then I'm able to respond like that. Where this is much more open, you can move around. It just doesn't connect with me. I feel like I'm just floundering in space. And I found the controls to actually be weirdly cumbersome, too. Like, trying to initiate a fight took me, like, a solid minute to get it to, like, happen.
So, my question with that, though, is, like, which controls can you end up using?
Nunchuck and Wiimote.
Okay, interesting. That's usually, I remember that's the way that I played originally. I never really had much issue myself. But.
Yeah, I don't know. It got easier, but like especially that first tutorial fight, I was like, it says hit A to start the battle or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Why isn't it? You have to basically, why isn't it doing anything?
You have to like lock on first and then press A, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I don't know what I was doing wrong.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, I got it figured out eventually. Also about the locking on thing. Got kind of annoyed by that because in the first part with Shulk, I thought I was locked on to the enemy in front of me, but I accidentally locked on to another enemy that was like many meters away. So my guy went off and ran it to fight that thing. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll run over there.
It can be kind of an issue. You have to kind of judge to make sure you're locking onto the correct enemy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts. My only other thing that I'll mention is that I actually think that Shulk's jump is more satisfying than Mario's in Mario Galaxy 2. He's got like a real moon jump. That's what Mario should have.
This is actually the downside with the Definitive Edition is that they actually kind of nerfed like something like the jump physics.
What?
They did, which is really unfortunate because one of the best parts of the jump physics is later on in the game. There's like a giant like ice mountain you're on, and the idea is like you have to like slide down this like huge like ramp and like jump off of it.
Yeah.
They nerfed that in Definitive, and it kind of fucks up that jump.
Oh.
But yeah, like it messes up that jump, so you have to like time it a little weirdly differently though.
Yeah.
The gameplay though, I in a way I can kind of agree, but it also
okay. Xenoblade is shit. Let's go.
Well, like as far as like the MMO style.
Oh yeah.
It does take some getting used to, but a lot of it is like utilizing the arts that you both had at the beginning of the game and the ones that you learn in order to like maximize your combat.
Yeah, I did notice that there's more stuff that you can do. It feels like if you used an attack, then you can scroll over and use this other move, and there's kind of always something for your hands to do, I guess, in that sense, and you can also move the character around. But it's just that lack of I can't intuit the impact that my actions have on the fight, which is where my disconnect with the game lies.
I don't know if this might help you, but I know like a big part of it is some of those arts like have specific ways to like give you more damage, like depending on like how you line up with the enemy.
Yeah, one of them said like attack the back of the enemy. Like
backslash is like obviously his one of his most iconic ones.
Famously,
from Smash. But yeah, you go around the back of the enemy, use that, it gives like more damage to that. Another one I think it's Slit Edge, where if you go in from the side, it inflicts like a break status effect, where you can utilize like other characters can be using other ones to like do like a chain on the enemy. So like you get it, you hit it with break, kind of like basically like makes it like staggered a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you use topple next, like after he has break on it, like falls down, and then there's a I think it's a stun. It makes it like fall down like for a lot longer.
Okay. So
it is kind of like set up using like your other party members in order to like get enemies down and like make sure like they're not attacking you more often.
That's all really cool. I just don't think I'll ever be able to get past. I guess the game's interface.
Yeah,
is where
I get that.
It's impenetrable to me. But I want to just hear, like, what are your favorite things about Xenoblade? What makes it such a great game for you?
My thing is, like, the story, you mentioned a little bit, but the story is really good. I don't know how far you got into the story. Because you probably didn't get to...
I got to the first heart-to-heart with Fiora. So I guess there's this mechanic in the game where you can build up a relationship with the different characters, and you can have these special moments. So I got the first one of those... with, I assume it's like Shulk's girlfriend.
Yeah, like childhood friend.
Yeah. I got that, and I guess I'll bring this up briefly. I then proceeded to have fun jumping, because I like the jumping so much, and I jumped right off the ledge into the water. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in the starting area, so how bad can this get? And then I aggroed some giant blue bird, and I just got one shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like high-level enemies, even in the first area, so you have to be careful of that. Yeah, you did not get to, like, the big, like, the thing I was hoping you were going to get past.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want me to spoil it a little bit for you.
Go ahead.
So, basically, like, not too long after that, you have to go to, like, the separate cave, like, Tefra Cave, which you end up having going through later. I think you have to get some ether cylinder to, like, power up something. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, I remember them mentioning something about that.
And then a little later on, there's a huge invasion of Mechon actually in Colony 9. And you have to kind of like weave your way through the enemies. You can't really do any damage to them because like none of the like traditional weapons work against them.
Yeah.
Having to get the Monado, which is like not really titular Xenoblade, but it's basically the Xenoblade.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that can actually do damage on them. And also like the whole like starting to like Shulk's whole quest is this giant like faced Mechon. Called Metal Face.
It was in the Smash Brothers level.
Right. He actually can like speak can actually speak and everything is sentient. Major spoiler for Xenoblade incoming for anyone that hasn't played this game yet. Kills Fiora.
I think I knew about this actually.
Yeah, I think you would know, but like kills Fiora, like you see like his Metal Face's claws going through her. Obviously, like makes Shulk distraught, and basically declares like revenge on all Mechon essentially.
Right.
And ends up like leaving Colony 9 with Ryan and goes off and like I don't remember his end goal, but like basically trying to get out there and like find like the leader of the Mechon essentially, and going over to Mechonis itself. Right,
which I guess that was something I found really cool about the like setup for the game is you were on Bionis, right?
Bionis, yeah.
Which is the remains of an ancient like Titan that fought with another Titan, which is where the Mechons are from, right?
Mechonis, yeah.
You're just like on the back of this.
It's I love it. Like that's another thing that's really cool. One of the cool things I've done, like again using an emulator for like looking at like
oh my god,
looking at like the model for like the Bionis, you can actually see like the areas where you go to.
Oh really?
Like kind of like obviously not as detailed or anything, but like you if you like especially if you're on the Bionis leg, which is the third main area, you can like zoom out and kind of like maneuver the camera around. You can see stuff like Colony 9, Colony 6, Arid Sea up on top of it. Even like I think it's the Bionis right shoulder. I think is the cut area.
Oh okay.
Which they brought that back in definitive actually, and like the future connected epilogue basically.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from with the gameplay though, but like I just like the story is just
the lore seems really cool. The story seems the characters were pretty fleshed out. I was kind of surprised to hear the characters say like damn and hell.
Yeah.
I don't know, just for like a first party Nintendo game it seemed like a little edgy, which I kind of liked.
It is a little bit, but like I also like love the dynamic between all the characters as well. Like Shulk and Ryan had like a really good like friendship because like you can tell that like they've known each other for years and they trust each other.
Yeah.
And then like when other characters come in the mix, like Dunban actually ends up becoming a party member as well a little later on. Like you kind of see like he's kind of like the older brother of the whole group basically,
right?
Because like he's kind of taking care of like Shulk, Ryan, and Fiora since they were younger as well. It's also really cool because like he ends up like not. I think it's his right arm he can't use. It's one of his arms he can't use anymore.
It gets damaged from using the Monado too much.
Yeah, for too much. So he still uses like his other arm with the sword as well. And like gameplay wise, like him, Ryan, and Shulk have like a really great like synthesis between each other, like setting up against enemies and everything.
So, in your opinion, I guess talking more broadly about Xenoblade for a second, what is the best one in the series?
Probably still the original in my opinion.
Really?
I also have not even beaten the other ones yet. Cause, like,
okay, fair enough.
The only other one I've beaten is X. X is fine. It's kind of the black sheep of the family, partially because it's still stuck on the Wii U.
Right.
And it's also like I do like the skeletons, but like it's kind of like weird mechanically with them. And also it ends up like on like a huge cliffhanger that I don't think is ever going to be resolved.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Bold.
Yeah.
Bold of them to do that.
But I've been slowly working on 2. A big thing with that is because there's a big like in-game like gacha mechanic. It's like getting like these like crystals to like summon blades. It's fine. I'm just not a huge fan of that. And then 3 I haven't even touched yet. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
You did recommend to me to play the definitive edition of Xenoblade. I ended up playing the original Wii one just because I actually have that game. I was able to get one of the first runs that I think it was like a GameStop exclusive for a while.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Bizarre release in the US, but I had one of those, so I figured might as well make some use of it. What are like some big improvements that definitive edition?
I think one of the main was is it like because I think in the original it's an arrow that points you to where to
yeah.
So in definitive there's an actual like kind of like a guide like on the maps to show you like the best the best way to go. You can obviously ignore that, but like it tells you like where to like kind of a best direction to go for both the main quests and side quests that you pick up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The other main thing is that I'm sure you probably noticed it where like you had to, I don't know if you came across any like side quests where it's like, oh, pick up X amount of like items.
Yeah.
So in definitive, it'll actually like show up on the map with a little exclamation point for those specific ones that you have to find out in the wild,
cool.
Instead of having to like go out and guess and be like, oh, I hope it's this item that I'm picking up. Versus in definitive, it's like, oh, hey, like it's in this area, like it's often like this like location. I can go over there and I have to like basically again roll the dice and hope that I pick up the item that I need.
Sure.
I think there's a few other like quality of life, but those are like the main ones offhand that I can think of.
Very cool. So I didn't hear you recommend the 3DS version.
The only really notable addition to that is just like a 3D model viewer, and as well as the full soundtrack you can unlock.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, it's I wouldn't say it's the maybe it is like the worst way to play it. Like
okay, fair enough.
Comparatively, at least.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. I think that was one of the very few like new 3DS exclusives.
Right, and that's kind of one of the main reasons why I bought the new 3DS was so I could buy a copy of that, which I don't regret because like it's really cool. Like pre-definitive, it was obviously like a really good way to play it on the go. The only other thing too is that like it doesn't have the option for the Japanese voices. It's English voices only, at least in the Western release.
Does the Wii version have an option for Japanese voices?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't even.
I haven't touched it either.
Think about that. I guess I'll mention that too because the voice acting is obviously a pretty famous Xenoblade element. I don't love it, but I didn't hate it as much as I expected it to.
Right.
I do not like Shulk's voice in Smash Brothers.
Fair.
But I think in the game it was fine.
Yeah, like I think you can kind of like because it's like little snippets of lines.
Yeah.
It doesn't give him like a good impression in Smash,
right?
But he has like a much better vocal range in the original game.
Yeah, I thought that the voice acting it was a little bit above passable.
That's
so
fair. Yeah.
I'll give it. All right. Any other final thoughts you want to give on Xenoblade, one of your most beloved games of all time? That I was just I gave up after 15 minutes.
I mean, like you like my thing is like you at least tried. Like I don't like you ended up not liking it. Like I respect that you weren't a fan of it, but you at leest gave it a shot. I think it's my other thing too is that like you don't really get to see like the full scope of like being able to explore areas. Because a big draw of that is that, like in each area, like if you see a location, you can pretty much just go to it. Like nothing.
Sure.
Like the only thing that's really stopping you is like sometimes like ledges are gonna be too high, but usually there's a way around that.
Kind of like a proto Breath of the Wild.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's like localized to like each specific area.
Gotcha.
One of my favorite ones is an area called the Machina Forest, which is a little maybe about like halfway through the game, where there's like a huge waterfall off in the distance. And like there's like a big lake going to it, and if you want to, you can just start swimming out there. Like there's really nothing out there, but you can just swim out there if you want.
All right, well, Jordan, you have convinced me to love Xenoblade, and now I will be playing the whole thing.
I believe you.
So Jordan sent me a list of games that he had dropped, and I looked at this list and I saw one of my favorite games of all time on there, and I said, Jordan, you have to play Super Punch-Out. And then, I don't know if it was later that night or like the next day.
It was the next day.
He sent me a message saying, oh, you're going to have to maybe pick a different game because I already beat it. And like, this almost gave me an existential crisis because Super Punch-Out took me forever. Eventually, I ended up speedrunning that game a little bit, but to get to that point was like 2 years of work.
Yeah.
The final circuit in that game is so difficult.
There's a big asterisk to that as well, which I'll get to in a second.
Yeah, exactly. Well, while I'm here like panicking, I'm like, you beat it in the past? You forgot? Like, nope, I just beat it. I'm like, with rewind.
Yes,
scumbag.
That is the asterisk. I will 100% admit to it. I did beat it with rewind. I probably would have given it up again if it wasn't for rewind. Because I was playing on the Switch, like the SNES Online. Then I'm like, wait, there's rewind. I could be an asshole on this.
I'm so fucking angry.
I'm sorry, but no. I can still talk about it.
Yeah. Well, give me your. When did you employ rewind? When was the first time you decided to return your gamer card?
It probably was Dragon. Was it Dragon Chan?
Really?
Yes.
In the second circuit?
Yeah. Or like the most. I think it did like a little bit, maybe with like Bold Bull, a little bit, like maybe like a couple times. But like it was really Dragon Chan was like the one that like mainly.
I'm so angry.
I know. I'm sorry. I think it was because like it was a lot of it was like his upper like flying kick. Because I had no idea what the hell to do against.
Sure.
Because like I thought I had to like hit it in like a certain way.
I think that's the one where you duck, maybe.
You duck, yeah. Which it took me way too long to figure that out.
I'll say this, so like I've at least tried every game in the series, including the arcade ones, and I've beaten all but I think Super Punch-Out Arcade.
Right.
Super Punch-Out for the SNES, I think it's one of the more difficult ones to learn the enemy patterns because there's a lot of nuance to everything, and it's not like Punch-Out Wii where the animations are so fluid that you can really get a good sense of it. A lot of it's
guesswork.
Yeah, a lot of it feels like guesswork in Super Punch-Out. And for me, that's the part that I kind of enjoyed is like finally cracking the code on each. Because, I mean, the game is essentially like a puzzle game when you get down to it, where it's like, okay, when this happens, and then I respond to this, and if I punch at this moment, then that makes this like part of the flow chart happen.
Right.
And then you can like open up the character that way, and it's like breaking a code, like I just said. But it also, for like, if you're just trying to beat the game, it's got to be annoying as hell.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing. It's like especially like because it's like a lot of it's like really like frame perfect.
Yeah, some of it really is, honestly.
So having to like try to figure out like when's he gonna do this, or trying to figure out like what's this attack doing now, it's just getting like really frustrating.
The final character I think of the game, I think it's Rick Bruiser, or Rick or Nick, I can't remember which one.
Yeah, it's the two brothers basically.
But he's got a move that if you want to like do the speed run, you almost have to just guess what he's going to do. Just guess correctly, and then you're able to, like, counter his
that
hit.
One specifically, like, it took me so long, even with rewind, like having to keep going back and like
a really hard fight. And it's another thing too, where like the hardware, you start to run up against the hardware, where like the emulation lag can dramatically. It can make the experience dramatically more difficult.
Right.
Like, I have to play on a Super NT or a SNES on a CRT to be able to really enjoy the game at all. I remember playing the Wii U version and just writing the game off. I think I had to give up at the Mad Clown character.
Mad Clown was also really annoying.
He's got some really tricky moves, like he throws the balls and you have to dodge in the right section of the screen. On Wii U, it just felt impossible. It wasn't until I played it on Super NT that I'm like, okay, this is technically possible to do.
I feel like if I had like something to play on my Super NT as well, I probably would have like a better time with it. It's just again, since I was playing on the SNES Online, that was the most accessible way for me to play.
Yeah.
Even because like I also have it on Wii U, but I'm like that one I knew there's a lot of like lag issues with just like the Virtual Console on Wii U anyways.
I mean that's almost a whole other conversation. We should have some time just about accessibility of these games and how they're being presented. But I don't know, I really like this game. I think that it just takes that original Punch-Out game on NES and it mixes that with some of the arcade elements like the Super Meter.
Right, yeah.
And kind of creates maybe the perfect Punch-Out game, but also I think by far the most difficult one.
Yeah. Like I never, like at no point in the game, while playing it, did I think it was a bad game. Like I think it's a really good game, like perfect, like really well crafted. It just wasn't clicking with me like how it was like similar with you with Xenoblade.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I only joke a little bit about like the using the rewind
Yeah.
thing because I think for 90% of people that's the only way to get through it. I mean, I think we mentioned last episode about how Mike Tyson is such an unfair fight in the original Punch-Out.
Yeah.
The final two characters of this game put him to shame, in my opinion. Like,
they're
it's
also really
ridiculous.
Because I think I mentioned because I was kind of going to bring up like even the original Punch-Out as well. Like I think I gave up, or I think it's either got to Sandman or I beat Sandman and then I gave up after that.
Tough game. Yeah. I mean, I think that you should return to that one. I think that you could do it without rewinds.
Yeah.
But it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, another thing that makes this game harder too, I guess I want to mention real quickly, is that you only have the one round to do it.
Yeah.
In the original NES Punch-Out, if you can't, fully make it happen, you still got 2 more rounds to work with. In this game, pretty often you're just gonna like lose because you ran out of time. But those are the games that we picked. I think we both got something out of this experience, at least. For one, know that I will never touch Xenoblade ever again in my entire life. And Jordan knows that if a game's too hard, he can just cheat like a fucking bastard.
A
All right, so moving on. Jordan, can you believe it? A real viewer question.
I don't believe you.
Actual real one. How did this happen?
I don't believe you. You have to convince me.
I mean, it's kind of a lie still, but the person who submitted this question has never listened to the podcast, but it's close enough. A real human asked me to talk about this.
Real human being.
Just wanted us to talk a little bit about Weird Mario. And by Weird Mario, I mean the lanky Mario from Super Mario Maker. And
I haven't thought about Lanky Mario in a while, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually... Me either, but it made me want to talk a little bit more just about Mario Maker 1 in general, and how Mario Maker 2 was not exactly a direct upgrade over that game, because there was so much stuff that got left out.
Yeah, there's so many different, what do they call those?
The amiibo, we called them amiibo costumes usually. I don't know if that's the real name for them.
No, because there's a lot more that weren't amiibo.
The amiibo, yeah, like you get a Donkey Kong Jr. one.
I don't know if it was I think it might have been Japan only, but I know there was one for Baby Metal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was one for Game Center CX, and that one came to the U.S.
Oh, interesting.
Which is really bizarre. Shaun the Sheep had one, which is another bizarre thing, but... so you had all those costumes, and people were making incredible themed levels based on that. You had the Weird Mario, which I guess to explain exactly what that is, whenever a mushroom would spawn, there was like a 1 in 100 chance that it would be a weird mushroom, where it had like a really thin stalk, and it would turn Mario into like... I think he's like taller than Big Mario even. I think
so, yeah.
He's got this weird ass jump.
And it's really lanky. And,
really
super
lanky.
Thin.
Just weird, and it would totally change the game mechanics. So what that would mean essentially is that if you built a level with a mushroom in it, there's maybe a chance that it just would be this lanky mushroom and would completely change how your level would be played by people, which I think is probably why Nintendo removed it.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Steve Gaming. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
You brought him up before.
Okay. He made a lot of videos talking about Mario Maker, and he showed how you could make like a mathematically impossible to beat level using the weird mushroom mechanic.
Interesting.
The idea would be that when you're in upload mode, you only get the normal mushrooms, no matter what.
Okay.
But as soon as it goes online, weird mushrooms can spawn.
Yeah.
So you create a device that just pumps so many mushrooms into Mario that he becomes Weird Mario by
default.
Yeah, default basically.
It's funny.
And then he can't complete whatever challenge due to his proportions.
That's unfortunate but hilarious.
So, I mean, I get that, but it's just a shame how much Nintendo removed from Mario Maker 2, especially those costumes.
Yeah,
those were so fun.
The costumes were big things. I know I've seen like levels based on like Sonic based levels where like you play as like the Sonic like costume basically.
And you see people try and like re-implement mechanics from those other games into Mario Maker in all these creative ways.
Right.
And it just doesn't feel the same when you have to be Mario in like the new one. I hope, and I don't think we ever will get a Mario Maker 3, by the way. I think that series is dead now.
Probably.
But if we ever do, I hope that they bring back some mechanics from the first game and the second game, and maybe finally give us like a Mario Brothers USA /2 theme, because that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be really cool.
That's all I really have to say about Weird Mario, I think. Jordan, do you have anything to add about Weird Mario? What would you rank Weird Mario on a scale of 1 to 10?
I rank it a Weird Mario out of 10.
Yeah, that's appropriate. All right, well, this was a lot of fun, Jordan. I hope everyone at home enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Later.